Brantley. Let's give it up for her.
So how do I get back on, Fadi? How do I get back on? Is it my name?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hello there. How are you, everybody?
So I can tell you, I am so excited to be able to see some faces, although not all, that are here today. The one thing about being quarantined, there's a little bit of isolation. Now, I can say that because it's just me at home now with my dogs. For those people who are home teaching and learning with all of your family members, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Amen.
I know that you are doing 10 different jobs all at one time, and we appreciate it. So to our families, we have entered into the second week of virtual learning, our second phase of virtual learning. And it's not only about what we're delivering right now, it's about what we're learning about how to best teach using all the tools at hand. And so I'm really proud of how all Friendship members have come together to help us deliver and get better during this period of time. It's still school though, right? We still have teachers that are planning. We still have books to be read. We still have math problems to be done. We still have learning to be assessed, but we have to do it with all that's going on in the world. And so I have to take a moment to say that we know that every single one of our families is being affected in a myriad of ways. Whether you yourself or have loved ones that are losing income, whether you don't know if your housing is stable, whether you've got friends here in DC or elsewhere. I have a lot of family in New York and New Jersey, and what they are describing in this pandemic is just, it's not only that it's saddening, it's also outrageous, just the level and lack of preparedness. And so I just want to take just a moment for reflection for us just to think about the fact that yes, we are a school. We have to deliver school, but we are doing it with human beings, and human beings are being affected in a way that we have probably not seen in decades in this country. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that being able to get up every day and continue to deliver school, to go to school, to make sure your kids are prepared and with us, that takes a lot. And it is not forgotten by us what you have to do and the emotions that might be there and the feelings that might be there. And so we thank you for even joining with us today during this important part of checking in with our families. And we're going to continue to do this and continue to check in with you, continue to try to understand what you need and what we can do better as we deliver the best education possible, not just under the circumstances, but with the resources that we have and that we can bring to bear on this problem. We have an email. It is wecare@friendshipschools.org. And every time I'm able to speak to people, I ask, please send us. It can be your kudos, it can be your shout outs, it can be your criticisms, it can be your concerns, but we need to know what you need, we need to know what's happening, and we need to know where we can do better. And so that's Friendship Cares. That's at our wecares@friendshipschools.org email. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our fabulous and phenomenal Chief Academic Officer, Bielka Scott Marcus, who's somewhere among this group of people on the things. She is right there, and she appears to be ready. I'm going to give her a round of applause for getting phase 2 ready and helping to lead the teams across our schools that got that done. And so please welcome Ms. Bielka Scott Marcus.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Pat. I really appreciate the introduction. That's unexpected, but I appreciate it all the same. So I just want to say that I want to really start us off by clearly restating and just really honoring what has already been stated. This is a time that none of us could have planned for and that none of us could have gotten any more ready for than we are currently. So in that space, I want you to know and to recognize that we did not just take into account in the instructional programming what our scholars needed to do and what our teachers needed to do, but we also took into account what that would mean for families and what that would mean while you have scholars at home. You know, we are sort of building and flying the plane at the same time. When we think about teachers who weren't trained to be virtual teachers, when we think about leaders who weren't trained to be virtual leaders, but everyone is stepping up to the plate in a way in which we could not have been more proud of. So we are in our second phase, which looks a little different than our first phase. Our first phase, we anticipated returning on April 1st, which was last week, Tuesday. So in that space, when we learned that we would not be returning until what it seems like now is April 27th, but I'm sure that as district residents, everyone has also heard from the mayor that the potential of that return may also shift. So the level of flexibility that the academic team has had, that the school leaders, our teachers, is just phenomenal. So we also thank our ops team. I see Mr. Waller is on, James Waller, who's our chief of schools, because the provision of meals that we are distributing from all of our campuses 3 times a week. It was 5 times when we initially started. We're at 3 times a week now, but distributing multiple meals at a time. It means that we have staff members still going to work. It means that we are still providing for our families in the commitment that we have promised. So I want to just start off by saying that, and just to give you a little sense of what a particular day would look like for a scholar across the grade levels. But I will be specific to segment what pre-K looks like, what kindergarten through 5th grade should look like, what grades 6 through 8 should look like, and also finally what our high schools would look like. I'll start from the top. Our high schools are utilizing the same configuration of classes as they would when scholars were coming to campuses physically. So what does that mean? All of the courses that your scholar was involved with during their time at tech prep and their time at collegiate should be represented in an academic day on a daily basis. What does look different is the means of how those classes are being facilitated. So rather than a teacher standing front and center in a classroom, teachers are in Google Classrooms, in Google Hangouts, in Zoom, but they are facilitating the same level of content that they would if scholars were in the classrooms. The blocks are a little shorter because it's not necessarily the best practice to have scholars to sit in front of a screen interacting with teachers for more than an hour at a time. So you won't have 90-minute periods, but you will have blocks of time that are 60 minutes in length. And those blocks of time are also inclusive of all of their electives, as well as their core classes of ELA, science, math, social studies, and the like. If we look at some of the parameters for grades 6 through 8, we are going to share, Simone, I will send that to you, and hopefully you can create a link and share it to the parents more broadly. But what parents should look for when their scholar is engaged in learning? What parents should look for when their scholars are engaged in learning with specific content? So ELA, or English Language Arts, isn't going to look the same as math or science or social studies. But it's really important for our families to also know what to expect during these times. ELA and math instruction in grades 6 through 8 will occur on a 3 to 4 day a week schedule, with science and social studies being embedded 2 to 3 of those days during the week. Our students that are in K through 5 will also receive ELA, or English Language Arts, comprised with phonics in our kindergarten through second grade. So our students continue to need, and we want to continue to reinforce the phonemic development and the phonics development. So how to read, what do sounds sound like, how are sounds and letters configured to make words, and the like. We will continue to deliver that instruction from kindergarten through second grade, and all scholars will continue to receive instruction in English language arts as well as mathematics across that entire grade span of kindergarten through fifth grade. Our youngest learners, so I see our early childhood directors on view. I don't know what page they're on, but Miss Tasia Bagani and Gigi David are our early childhood directors that have facilitated and created a schedule that really meets the needs of our youngest learners. So our youngest learners will not be on screen for hours at length. They will only interact virtually with their teachers 3 times a week for instructional purposes. So one of those days, they will focus on math or numeracy. Another day, they will focus on language. And the third day, they will focus on literacy or reading and the tenets of foundational reading for 3- and 4-year-olds. But that doesn't mean that we won't be interfacing with scholars and families on the remaining 2 days. What that does mean is that we will be having check-ins on an individual basis with families, and then group check-ins with the class in its entirety on Friday as a unit. So there are a number of academic team members on the call right now. If I start naming people, you may be on a different page, so I don't want to try to do that in this space. But I do want to just reiterate that we are here, and we are not here just in a supportive capacity, but we are also here in an instructional capacity. And we want to ensure that in order for your individual scholar to be able to be successful during this time, that we are providing all of the necessary resources to get that done and to continue to live out the mission of Friendship Public Charter Schools. So Charmaine, I don't know if you want to open for questions at this point. How do you want questions to be
let's open it up for questions.
And do you want those questions to come via the chat, or do you, because it will be a little bit difficult because you have 3 pages of members that are participating on the call, and you also have 25 cells per page. So just tell me how you want to do it and we can move forward. You can either unmute people as they raise their hand, or just let me know.
If you have any questions, be sure to chat them. Kiana raised her hand.
Okay. You're on my first page, Ms. White. So I can see you.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is in regards to the children doing the actual packets and not turning them in. Like, what is it? How is the grading going to go? Or like, what does that look like for them? Because they're doing the work, they're putting in the effort. What does that look like for them when it comes down to you all grading and them getting passed to the next grade? How does that look now?
So for the first phase of instruction, which was that initial week, we are going to collect all of those assignments and that packet when students return to the classroom or return to school. I started to say the brick and mortar, but return to school. So we will be collecting those packets, and we will be going through to evaluate what has been accomplished. We cannot fairly align everything that students are doing at home to our current grading system. So what we are in the process of doing right now is reevaluating this time period and determining how we can lend a grade, whether that's a pass or fail or an actual grade, to the work that students are doing virtually.
Okay.
But we don't want to exclude any sort of mitigating circumstances that families have that we may or may not be aware of that are in their home that don't necessarily allow for the same level of engagement that may be allowable in another home or in another family structure. So
Okay.
please do not, don't discard it. Don't, try to lose it, if you will, because we do want all of the information that scholars are engaged in while they're home to return with them when they come back to school.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Maxine Robinson.
Hi, Ms. Robinson.
Hi, I want to say I really do appreciate how much effort everyone is putting in. I have a few questions.
Sure.
As a parent who has several scholars in the friendship system, how do we navigate instructional time at the same time for 3 scholars?
Mm-hmm.
And as I sit with the Chromebooks trying to get them all
Logged
on
in.
the line,
Mm-hmm.
logistically, internet has been slowing down, and some things aren't functioning the way that they should.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary thing because now this is technology that it's hard to deal with, and I'm juggling 3 students in the system and 3 different grade levels. So how do we yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm going to say that that's probably the biggest challenge of this entire body or this entire space that we're in right now. And I'll say that because, as you have described, in some cases, there are older siblings that may be of high school age that are also responsible for younger siblings because families still have to go to work. There are still some of us that still have to go to work. Whatever your career is, it may have placed you in an essential category that you're still going to work. So there are 2 entities that we are trying to, at this particular juncture, consider. And so one of them is to record the lessons in a way that students can, at appropriate times or times that work for the family, to at least be able to go back to a lesson and actually access a component of what transpired. Now, a component may be what was pre-recorded as opposed to the actual virtual interaction with the teacher, because the teacher would not necessarily be available at that particular point in time. We are also navigating a space where some of the work that scholars have to do isn't contingent on the teacher. So it isn't contingent on being face-to-face virtually with a teacher in order to complete whatever that day's assignment is. And I don't want any parent that's on the call to feel like if something doesn't occur based on the schedule that we have laid out, that you're somehow behind or failing your child by not completing something that needed to be complete that day. And I see your face.
And I only say that because there's some classes that are taking attendance. And so we have been, requested to be present to say Blueberry. I got a pre-K 3-er.
Mm-hmm.
And also, be in uniform. And it is that it's it can be challenging. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just worried, like if one is not in attendance to one portion of it, are they able to still get credit for being I don't know how to do. I'm on my phone. One's on my phone. One's on the, is that counted as the attendance? Is that counted negatively against them? So I'm a little nervous. I don't want to fail them and I don't want them to be behind.
It won't be, this is Pat Brantley, it won't be counted negatively against
Right.
them. What we're doing is we're going through our entire roster and pulling the groups of students who are siblings to survey those parents specifically about what the challenges are.
Mhm.
Okay. And we will clearly be able to see what the attendance records are because you have siblings.
Mhm.
Don't worry.
Mhm.
All right, we had 2 questions come in the chat. The first question is, how will PARCC testing play a phase in the grading and graduation of students in the event we do not return back to school?
We will not have PARCC testing this year. And so it will not come into play in any way for this school year.
And then the second question is, what will the grading procedures look like for elective classes such as dance and music? I was sent an email regarding learning dance routines, but I'm not a dancer.
So grading overall has not yet been quantified. So when I say that, I'm going to assume, because I don't know exactly what the email entailed, but what we, and what the grade of the student is, but what we have done is developed videos for our specials teachers, so our elective teachers, such as in dance, in theater, in music, both instrumental and vocal, that students have options to select from that they can participate in. So if dance isn't something that the scholar would like to participate in, they don't have to participate in that. So if it's a high school student and it's an elective, then that's, I guess, a different question. So I'm not sure the grade level of the student, but the grading is not going to be what we would have done in the brick and mortar setting or in the school setting.
The student's in 3rd grade.
Oh yes, so that is an option. That is one of the electives that he or she has to select from. It is not a graded class. Can you see any additional questions in the chat, or is anyone raising their hand? I don't see that that's what's happening, but you may have a different view as the host. You're muted, Charmaine.
Thank you. I don't see anyone raising their hand or, someone asked if you can touch on senior graduation plans.
Candy, you want to talk a little bit about the graduation elements?
I know right now in front of DC Council is having a legislative meeting tomorrow. And as part of that legislation, they will be taking up the community service requirements, the 180-day schedule, as well as our Carnegie unit. So after that meeting tomorrow, we'll send out an FAQ via Charmaine, and we will give you further details on what that impact will have, especially with our seniors and our high schools. So we should have, like I said, a better information pending tomorrow's meeting with DC Council.
And I know that our high school principals, if they have not already met, will be meeting with the 12th grade parents to get some ideas or some possible options for all of the senior events. So all of the senior events, inclusive of prom, signing day, you know, any and everything that was planned for the duration of the school year, so that we can talk about some alternative options that we may have moving forward for our seniors.
Okay, we have Kiana who raised her hand.
Okay.
I just wanted to shout out Tech Prep because from the very beginning, it was just really seamless and smooth. I mean, I was a nervous wreck, definitely just with having a senior, a 10th grader, a 9th grader, and then a 3rd grader all in this house. So Maxine,
Right.
I'm here with you, baby. It's all of them trying to be online and they're like closing doors and rooms, bathrooms. We're just making it happen. But I have to thank Ms. Boo for her live chats every morning. We're on live with her. We're getting updated. I just truly appreciate the information because we're never, you know, trying to figure out what's happening or what's going on. The information is always being given to us, and I so appreciate that. Today, Mr. Lowry has been on it. Kiara's had like several issues with the Chromebook, but thanks to God, I'm gonna be there tomorrow morning. So I do want to shout him out because today it's just kind of been crazy. But he has definitely been answering me and making sure that Kiara gets what she needs. I love the fact that now the 3rd graders will have some type of interaction. Kiara was so excited to see all her teachers today on Zoom, to see some of her classmates on Zoom. And I truly think that they need that connection. I think they're all missing that type of connection. So I truly appreciate that you guys decided to go in that direction with them because it really made her day today. It really did. And I just appreciate you all coming together to get that, you know, for these students, because I think that makes a difference for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. White. I too enjoy the morning tech prep rallies on IG. So, and Pat participates as well most of the time. So we really appreciate what Principal Booth is doing with respect to that and keeping everyone in the loop and keeping everyone informed. Thank you for shouting out Mr. Lowry as well, because I know he's been on it today. We've communicated today. And so I really appreciate that. And also your flexibility, because that means that you kind of have to come back and forth as well to be able to pick up a new Chromebook and talking with the TSS in the building. So thank you for acknowledging that because I think it really serves as a motivator to our scholars as well as to our school leaders, because they are in the trenches working every day to ensure that we do our very best where our students are and families are concerned. So thank you for that.
All right, we have 2 more questions. Maxine Robinson.
So I am a health educator by trade, and I am also from Far Rockaway, Queens, New York. I've unfortunately lost several classmates to the COVID-19. And as a parent who was the primary caregiver for 4 children, it's very scary to go grocery shopping or to be in the community and not become sick. Because if we become sick, it's a wrap. There's no school, there's no cooking, there's no food, nothing. And so I really think it's important that we highlight or you know, even talk, you know, even more than washing hands, the mental health impact of the fear and anxieties that come with the schooling. Okay, you are on it, and you all have always been on it. Thank God for that. But some of the things that are out of our control, that things that we have to do on a daily basis. Even the thought of coming to exchange a Chromebook, I went back and forth with the teachers like, hey, that's not part of the CDC guidelines. And I highlighted them and I sent them to the teacher because I can't get sick. And so I don't know where that fits in, but the health educator in me is going to say something about it. And so I know other parents are feeling it too.
And let me say, you're absolutely on point with sharing that statement and sharing that sentiment because it's very real. It's very real. And it's very real to us, even as a friendship family and a friendship community, because you know, this isn't a virus that is singular in nature, right? It's something that's impacting and has had an impact on all of us. If we took a moment to pause and have everybody just even speak about how this virus has impacted them, I'm sure we would be on for a few more hours. So I want to say thank you for bringing that point up and acknowledge that we are trying to find ways that we can also address some of those social and emotional needs that our families are having and our scholars in the midst of this pandemic. I mean, we really have to be honest with ourselves. Our world, our globe is in crisis, and we are moving to learn lessons as we go along, but also to practice the safest and also most practical ways to live in the conditions that we're in right now. So I really appreciate that. And if you have any suggestions, we are absolutely open, honestly, to hearing what those are, and how we could better keep everyone safe in our network and families.
I appreciate you, and I'll be thinking on it. I talk to my parents, and I just reassure them the same way that I would reassure my children.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some parents who have, children are asking about getting sick, and it's part of their verbiage now. Corona
Mm-hmm.
this, virus that. Don't let them in here. Hold your breath.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's frightening. And if you don't have the verbiage or even the education level, which to explain what's going on, it could be fearful. We could be around myths and incorrect information. And so I just like to make sure we're all on the same page, but then reassurance that we can make that through. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We had Sean Goff. He raised his hand.
Hey, Bennett. Okay. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to follow up to what Ken had mentioned with regard to the council. I spoke with Councilmember Grosso in his office today, and they were really excited to know that we would like to engage in a conversation with our parents and families. And so they're looking to try to schedule something this Friday. So Charmaine, I will let you know.
Okay, great.
Cool. So that's good stuff. So thank you, Ken.
And then we had Sean Dorsey.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, how are you? First of all,
Well, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. First of all, kudos to the Friendship family.
Awesome.
I think you all have been ahead of the game in comparison to other friends and family that I know are in other DCPS schools and other surrounding districts across the board that kind of have run into some hiccups and some jams. So I am, and my wife and my kids, we're just thoroughly happy to be a part of the Friendship family, first and foremost. Secondly, my question is regarding registration. Been getting the registration emails coming through, but as far as everyone goes, what are some of those leniency? Because I see there's some hard dates on there as far as getting paperwork and things like that. We already know that doctor's appointments are going to be a struggle to get physicals and all of that. What type of discussion has been going on surrounding that aspect of registration?
Hey, Bielka, if you want, I can, or Pat, do you want to jump in on that? This is Zach.
Yeah, we're on daily calls with the deputy mayor for education and the superintendent of education, and they are likely going to waive or delay some of the pieces that are related to the medical documentation. And Zach, do you want to talk about the rest of it?
Yeah, sure. In terms of registration, really has two big steps. There's enrollment, which you can just do online, right? You're enrolling your child for next year. Then the next stage is about registration. It's about all those documents, right? How do we prove DC residency? How do we, fill everything out that we need to fill out? So we're doing two things. One, in coordination, collaboration with OSSI and the Deputy Mayor's office, that those deadlines are being pushed back, and we will continue to make sure that you are clear about when those deadlines are. But also we're building a system to allow you to submit those documents electronically so that you don't have to come into the school, but you can instead submit them electronically. There may be a little more back and forth, right? If, oh, we can't read this, questions that we might have had in person, we might have to just email you back and forth about it. But we're trying to make it so you don't have to come in to submit all of those documents.
Okay, great. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for all that you're doing with your scholar.
Thank you.
We also had a question in the chat. What are the plans for passing or failing students for next year? How will a student's work be evaluated to make those decisions?
So we are looking at work in the same way that I'm hoping that this question it sort of aligns to what Ms. White asked a little bit earlier. But we are looking at grading from the point at which our third quarter began and ended as a fixed amount of time, right? So third quarter grades are, we've inputted those grades and those grades will be, they have already been finalized for the third quarter. This is a new quarter, or this would be the final quarter. So what we are doing is we are collecting all of the artifacts or all of the student work. And from the point at which we went out on March 13th was our last day. So the first phase and the second phase, all of the assignments that have been uploaded, all of the work packets that will be submitted once we return to school, we are processing how best to grade that work given the constructs of the time that we have been out and what that work will cover. So we don't necessarily have a sort of hard and fast response to all students will pass or all students will fail, because we have to look at the work that has been completed and what and set some parameters around grading for that work that has been done during this time. I've answered some of the questions, Charmaine, in the chat, but there may be some others that I'm not necessarily capturing. Thank you, Ms. Kinney, for offering to have the Friendship Network tap into many families that are licensed clinicians and healthcare educators as needed. So thank you, Ms. Kinney, for that suggestion and offering to support as well.
Those are all the questions that we have. It was just a comment asking if the schools can provide snack codes for individual schools also, but there were no further questions. I know that Tech Prep has their check-in at 5 o'clock for parents, and then Collegiate also has the senior parent meeting at 6 o'clock today. So parents, we definitely want you to participate in that if that's your school. Thank you so much for this check-in. This has been awesome. I hope that it cleared up any questions that you have. If you have any further questions, you can always email us at wecare@friendshipschools.org, or you can call our hotline at 202. Can someone put this in the chat too? 202-281-1777. That's our hotline number. And then for additional resources, all of the soft copies of our homework packets, as well as additional resources, videos on how to use Google Meet and how to use Zoom. We have instructional videos, and everything is on our website at friendshipschools.org. There will be a tab at the top that leads you to distance learning resources. And so just click on that and you will see the meal distribution schedule. You'll see additional resources that you can go just as a hub if you need any support. But we are here, and Ms. Scott Marcus, we thank you. Ms. Brantley, thank you for being on the chat with us today. Join us on Wednesday at 4 o'clock. We'll be talking about the secrets and fears of distance learning right back here in our Zoom link. Have a good evening.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much to everyone from the academic team, Friendship, coming on to answer any questions. We appreciate it.